okay? So let's go ahead and get started. What I want to explain first is that your body has two kinds of fuel that it will burn. One is sugar and one is fat. And a majority of people are sugar burners. That's because that's usually what we give our body to burn. Most of the time in our society, we're eating lots and lots of sugars, and whether that be in the form of actual candy sugars or carbohydrates such as, oh, there's no sound? Oh, let's turn that up. Let me see. Well, is that working now? Let me know if you're getting any sound. I can't think of why that would be, but I've had a weird thing. Oh, hold on, I got an idea. I'm going to plug my headset in because I have a weird little thing going with my, let's do this. Give me 1 minute. Let's see. Okay, let's see. Is that any better? Can you hear me now? Are we getting any sound? I've had a weird little thing going with my new phone. And sometimes it's only giving me sound when I have the headset in. So can one of you let me know are we getting sound now? So can somebody type in the comments if you're hearing me now? So I'm going to keep talking, and maybe how about tap the hearts if you can hear me? So I don't know what is going on with that. Let's see. All right, well, I'm going to keep going, and if you can't hear me, you let me, I got a heart, so that means you're hearing something. So I'll start back at the beginning a little bit. So what we're going to talk about today is 3 ways that you can become a fat burner rather than a sugar burner. So what typically happens is, is it good? Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for letting me know. I appreciate that. That would have been a long time of me talking to myself. So the problem with today is we eat a lot of carbohydrates these days. We were told way back, probably in about the 80s, that we needed to have about 50 to 60% of our diet as carbohydrates. So what happens there, I'm going to get into a little more detail, but those turn to sugar very quickly. And by carbohydrates, I mean starchy carbohydrates like, and you can type in any starchy carbohydrates that you can think of that I may forget, but I'm talking about things like breads, pastas, rice, cereals, popcorn. We got to talk about popcorn. Well, sugar, starches such as candies, chocolate, things like that, any kind of, sugar. I'm talking honey. And unfortunately, I'm also talking about fruit sugars. I'm going to explain how that works later, but fruit sugars kind of count as a starch. So when I'm talking about carbohydrates today, I'm talking about the starchy carbohydrates, things that are made with flours and wheat products. So when another category of carbohydrates are complex carbohydrates, and those include things, basically vegetables that have a lot of fiber with them. So today we're talking about the starchy carbohydrates, just to be clear. But let's start at the beginning. Let's start with protein, and I'll go through protein, carbs, and fat, tell you why you need them, what your body does with them, and then we'll really get in and hone in on the issue of carbohydrates and what we're going to do about that. Okay, so proteins are things like your fish, your meat, chicken, eggs, cottage cheese, things, Greek yogurt. Those are all great sources of, even wild game like elk and bison and bear and whatnot. It's hunting season starting Saturday around here, so we're talking about wild game a lot here. But all of those meats and proteins they're broken down in the body into amino acids, and amino acids are then used to build your muscle. So those are huge. That's a key part of your diet if fat burning is your goal, and fat loss is your goal, which is the same thing. So many times we talk in terms of weight loss, but really what we should be concerned about is fat loss, because if we're not losing fat and we're just losing weight, what is that weight made of? It's either made of water or muscle or hair or skin or, any of the other things in our body that is not muscle. So we really should be talking in terms of fat loss in most cases. So that's how I'm going to be talking today. So we really need to keep those amino acids available in our body so that we can use them to build muscle. Okay, that's number 1. Number 2 is fat. So we've also kind of been led to believe that fat is bad in our diet, and there are good fats and there are other fats that are not as good. So fats are used for some major things, and this is the one thing you don't hear very often. Fats are used to build your brain, to build your heart, to build hormones, to build your immune system, to build your nervous system, to build your bones. Did I mention bones? And they feed the organs. So as you can see, just that short list, that's not even a comprehensive list of what fats do. And what they're used for in the body, but those are huge things, and we don't want to go without those things. A lot of times when people cut way back to a low-fat diet, that is when we start having hormonal problems. Hormones are what send the messages all around your body to tell your body how to function properly. So we want to make sure that we're getting those fats in the body. So you do need to have some of the healthy fats in your body. By that I mean things that are made of coconut oil, coconut milk, coconut itself, things that are made of avocado. These are healthy fats. Things made from olive oil. Couldn't think of it. Things made of olive oil, and even just straight butter. But some of those healthier fats too should be included every day, as well as maybe nuts. I'll go into other periscopes about, what portions and how to get those in. But for today, I just want you to learn that fats are essential for the body. In fact, there are fats in the body called essential fatty acids, and that is because they are essential for our body to produce these hormones and to build these parts of our body. They're absolutely necessary to function in a healthy life. Okay, now let's get on with carbs, because carbs are such a big deal. So carbs are broken down into two forms of sugar, glucose and fructose. Okay, fructose is the word for fruit sugar. So when I'm talking about carbs today, I'm also talking about fruits, which do have a lot of nutrients in them, but they also turn to sugar very quickly. So we want to make sure that fruits are kind of included in this category. So what happens with carbohydrates when we eat them is they are broken down into energy for the body to use. And you might be saying, well, I'm pretty busy, I need all this energy, or I work out and I need this energy. And while that is true, we do need energy to fuel our brain for thinking power. You probably have experienced after eating lunch, maybe an hour after eating lunch, that you kind of crash a little bit and you just can't focus, or when your blood sugar drops quite a bit, your brain doesn't function as well. And that's one example of why we do need a certain amount of carbs in the body, and just to have the energy that we need to get throughout our day. However, the human body, most bodies can only store about 500 grams of carbohydrates. Now, that might not make a whole lot of sense to you, but let's just say that the typical person that's eating a low carbohydrate diet will usually stay below 100 grams a day. Okay, so the average person that's not really paying attention to their carbohydrate intake one way or the other, that's just eating how they eating what they want to eat, is usually maybe taking in between 200 and 300 grams a day. Okay, so that kind of just gives you a rough idea. So if our body can only store 500 grams of carbohydrates at any time, those excess carbs that are not used up throughout our day, running around our day and through our exercise and the energy that we need, is stored as fat. And your body is actually doing you a favor. Now, I know that sounds like a bad thing, but your body is actually doing you a favor by storing those sugars as fat, because sugars become extremely corrosive to all parts of the body, to the arteries, to the eyes, to the organs. It starts to kind of crust up around our cells so they can't get the messages in properly. So it is really dire for our body to get those sugars out of the bloodstream and get them somewhere else so they don't start corroding the body. Okay, so while it seems that storing fat is a bad thing, in this case of a person that's eating too many carbohydrates, more than their body can handle at any one time, it's actually doing their body a favor. That's why usually a person will become obese before they start showing the signs of diabetes. They'll start to store fat, gain weight, and then they'll start to see the diabetes. And we'll go into that another day. It's hard not to rabbit trail because all of these things are so tied in, but I'm going to try really hard to stick to the point of fat burning. So muscle. We talked about protein building muscle. Muscle is a very metabolic tissue, which means it needs lots of energy to keep itself doing what it does. Okay. A person with lots of muscle sitting in this chair might be burning more calories just sitting there than the person next to them that doesn't have a lot of muscle on their body. So because muscle takes a lot of fuel to keep going each and every day, even while at rest. So fat doesn't take a whole lot of energy to fuel itself. So it's kind of a lazy tissue. So when you go into a restricted calorie diet, for example, your body is going to look around and say, okay, we don't have a lot of calories coming in. I need to fuel this muscle but this muscle is taking up a lot of the calories that are coming in. So we're going to ditch the muscle, burn that for fuel because this fat is not asking me to do much. I hope that makes sense. So give me a little message if that doesn't make sense. I'm going to repeat it again because it's a really important thing to know. So my muscle takes a lot of energy. If I start drastically cutting my calories because I want to lose fat, what's going to happen is the exact opposite. My body's going to say, wow, we are not getting enough energy in here to fuel this muscle tissue that's asking for so much energy. So let's just burn up that muscle tissue and we'll keep the fat around because it's not asking us to do very much. Okay, so I hope that makes sense because that is key, because the more muscle you lose, the fewer calories you'll burn even while at rest. So you're slowing your metabolism down. While you think you're cutting calories to lose fat, you're actually slowing that metabolism down. And that's why people that go on a calorie restricted diet will then put weight back on because they've slowed their metabolism down. Then they say, okay, I've lost all this weight. I'm going to go back to my regular calorie count. And then they're now adding all these calories that they don't need anymore because they don't have the muscle to use it up anymore. Okay.